Hello, and welcome to the Weeb Years, a look back at the media and culture of the Western anime boom. I'm Beanie.
I'm Laurel.
And I'm MaeMae.
It's our 1-year anniversary! 366 days ago, the very first episode of the Weeb Years was uploaded into the interwebs. We want to give a great big thank you to everyone who supported us thus far, and to all the new listeners who might be joining us for the first time. Nice to meet you. I think a year is a good enough time to maybe do a little refresher, so to reintroduce ourselves a bit, howdy there. My name is Beanie, I use they, them pronouns, and I've been a filthy fucking weeb ever since I was 9 years old.
I'm Laurel, I also use they, them pronouns, but I'm not too picky, I also use she, her, fey, fair, and I have been a weeb since I was 1 year old, just like this podcast.
That's so cute. I'm MaeMae. I use she, her, sometimes it. I've been a weeb since the beautiful year of 2008, and that's a long time. I've also got the added bonus of being a furry since the year after that.
Yeah!
Double the degeneracy.
Oh, yeah.
As a little personal note, this last year has been so fucking stressful and challenging, and also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and I just wanted to thank both of you sincerely for helping me make this dumb little podcast a reality.
Thank you for dragging us along.
I agree 100%. Thank you so much for steering us into this anime adventure.
To celebrate one whole year of talking about old anime, and as a thank you to all of our listeners for a whole year of support, we all agreed that one of the best ways to celebrate would be to cover one of the most important anime of all time, Akira.
Yahoo!
Now, had either of you ever seen this movie before?
So I actually went and checked. I watched this last and for the first time in May of 2015, so it's been over 10 years.
How did you check?
My anime list.
Oh, right.
I, religiously log everything I watch and when I watch it, and it's actually coming in handy for this podcast.
That's an amazing thing to have.
What about you, MaeMae?
This was my very first time watching it.
Ooh.
Samesies.
Really? Neither of you have seen this?
Nope.
No, never did.
Oh my goodness.
One special thing about me is I've probably not seen most of the movies that most people would consider like the most important or the most groundbreaking or, the most influential even. I've not seen a huge percentage of those, and it happens to be one of the main reasons that I decided to come on this podcast and talk about all the old anime is because I've not seen it in the first place.
Something I didn't know before researching for this episode, Akira actually started out as a manga. I wish I had known about it beforehand because I absolutely would have read it before recording, but I always try to wait until after I've watched something to do any research on it to avoid potential spoilers, so I didn't know about it until 2 days ago.
I've been reading a bunch about the manga and people talking about the manga. I don't know that you would have had time because it's apparently 2,000 pages. It's insanely long for the length that it is.
Oh, that's so exciting, though.
The stuff I've read about the manga is it's much more political and much less horror-focused.
Delicious.
And that the background characters are a lot more important. You actually get to learn about the clowns, and the Joker is apparently a major character. A couple characters that you see maybe once or twice in the film are, really expanded upon, the cult and whatnot.
So, in 1982, Kodansha released the Akira manga, written by Katsuhiro Otomo. The series was lauded as a masterpiece of the medium, received numerous awards worldwide, and was one of the first manga to be fully translated into English. Again, it's wild I didn't know about the manga before this, because apparently it's a fucking cultural icon.
Whoa.
Did you know it was originally translated by fucking Marvel?
Oh yeah, I did see something about that. And that was back in the time where they were still flipping manga into comic panel order, so they were mirroring manga pages.
And not only that, but apparently they colorized it for the Western release.
Interesting.
I'm very briefly checking out some of these pages and covers, and what was the terminology you used? A masterpiece? That is apt. This is stunning.
Yeah.
This is on the same level or potentially even more beautiful than the movie, and that's saying something.
Fun fact, apparently one of Katsuhiro Otomo's assistants while he was working on the manga, Satoshi Kon.
Oh, wow. Oh, that explains so much.
Now, in 1988, Toho released the film adaptation of the manga, which Otomo would only agree to if he was allowed to direct. 7 different companies and studios pooled resources together in order to produce the film to a standard of quality that they felt matched the source material. What the fuck?
That's amazing. 7 studios?
That being said, the film had a lot of struggles during production, specifically the fact that they tried to make a single movie out of the first third of an incredibly long and, at the time, unfinished manga. Despite the eventual success of the film, Otomo has admitted that he thinks the way they handled the whole thing was a mistake, which I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I can see why.
Especially with it being like, because usually you'll hear about like film adaptations of, just film adaptations in general, and it'll be like, oh, well, this wasn't as good as my original work, but the fact that it was still the same dude adapting his own thing, and he himself is admitting, I could have done better, I just think that's kind of neat.
It is neat, but also I completely understand it because the source material is so dense. Like, if you have to adapt 2,000 pages into 2 hours, and I guess this wasn't even 2,000 pages, this would be like, 600, 700 pages?
Something like that.
That's still a lot of pages to adapt to one movie. Like, think about books. A book of that length would likely, at this point in time, be adapted into 2 films.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So to adapt that into 2 hours, there has to be so much cutting down of material.
No, totally. And especially with something so, concept heavy, trying to condense even a singular concept from this would be a monumental task. I'm sure I've said this before about other stuff, but I think the miniseries is really how to adapt something long and lengthy and packed full of information, because there's still the act of condensing, but then you have enough time to tell the story that you want to tell. And it's a shame that wasn't really a thing at this time period.
I've seen people talking about having it adapted into a contemporary series that's more based on the manga, and there does seem to be interest in it, but I don't think there's anything on the horizon as of yet.
That would be cool, though.
It seems like it's something feasible to have that redone too, because of its long-lasting cultural significance.
Oh, for sure. Now, it was given a theatrical release in the United States a year later, with a dub by Streamline Pictures, who we also know for giving us the Wolf dub of Castle of Cagliostro. The rights were later transferred over to Pioneer Entertainment, who put out a second English dub on DVD, produced by MaeMae. From what I found, if you go through official streaming sources like Crunchyroll or Amazon Prime, you're going to get the MaeMae dub, and if you used pirating sites, you're watching the Streamline dub. I think all of us watched the MaeMae dub?
I think so.
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I watched the same one as y'all. I was pretty dumb, though. When I did sit down to watch this, I had one pulled up, and it was the 4K version, but it was in Japanese with no subs.
Did they pronounce it Akira, or did they pronounce it Akira?
Akira.
Okay, you watched the Streamline dub.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's fine.
We got a variety.
So yeah, for decades, the movie has been considered a landmark of animation, influencing the industry, the cyberpunk genre, and pop culture as a whole. Hundreds of writers and directors across film, television, video games, etc. all cite Akira as a major inspiration for their passion, and a number of industry big-timers got their start working on the film. It is, by no exaggeration, a big fucking deal.
No, it's always my favorite thing to do when we watch something as gigantic and influential and old as a lot of the things that we've been watching, is to pick out what I can pick out, like the way a scene is composed or like the way a character does something, is see if I can find what that ended up inspiring. This one was a trip. It was every shot, every interaction I've seen again somewhere else, and that's so cool.
I feel like just trying to track down all the references made to this film is impossible, because I've seen 2-hour compilation videos just of the slide scene being referenced in Western cartoons. What an undertaking.
Okay, so I want to talk about the fucking Akira slide real quick. I'm jumping ahead, but this is so inconsequential. I was weirdly taken aback by how soon it happens in the movie.
Really?
And it's not even during a super dramatic scene. I had always assumed that the Akira slide happened in this big important hype moment of the climax or something, but it's in like the first 5 minutes, and I'm honestly like, don't get me wrong, it's a cool shot. It's kind of weird that is the thing that popular culture has latched onto so hard, because the film itself doesn't really lean on it too much. You know what I mean?
I think it's just the most iconic visual scene that is also not super traumatizing.
That's a good point.
Just thinking about the first 5 minutes, I have it in my notes too. I'm like, oh, that's the big slide? Does it happen again? Am I missing something? No, it's just the first thing there. But like,
I feel like I almost missed it.
Yeah, you blink and it's not there. But like, I feel like in the first 5 minutes, it's so much. Like, you're just thrown in this world. You have to accept a whole bunch of things really, really fast, and there's so much fast-paced action it's one of the more clear shots, I think, once the action really starts going, and you're allowed to take a breath if you've been holding it. And so I think that might be one of the reasons why it's so iconic. It's also pretty easily replicable, unlike a lot of other scenes that we get to see. But yeah, just the full-fledged action smacking you in the face, and then, oh man, that's so cool.
I think it does help that it's a more literal scene too, because as the movie goes on, things get more and more abstract. So having something tangible people can latch onto and identify with the series is, I think, important as far as having an iconic scene.
Yeah.
That's also a good point. Speaking of getting thrown into the world, let's talk about Akira. In the cyberpunk future of 2019, the city of Neo-Tokyo is plagued by terrorism, corruption, and violence. Teenage biker gang leader Shotaro Kaneda finds himself wrapped up in a military conspiracy when his childhood friend Tetsuo Shima is kidnapped and turned into an Esper, whose incredible psychic powers quickly go out of control as he rampages through the city, with Kaneda being one of the only people with any hope of stopping him. First and foremost, this is objectively one of the most technically impressive pieces of animation ever created. The detail, the movement, the revolutionary lighting effects. This movie is fucking gorgeous.
I read a bunch of interesting stuff about the production of it. Like the fact that they did the recordings first and then animated based on what was being spoken rather than the reverse, which is not typical of anime.
I was wondering about that.
And that's also why there's a lot of like mismatching in the dubs to the actual lip flaps, because it's so specifically supposed to represent what they're saying in the original Japanese.
Now I really want to go back and watch it in Japanese just for that, because there was a scene when they were yelling at each other, and I'm like, that doesn't match at all what's happening, in the dub, but like, I know what word they're saying in Japanese. You might or might not know this about me. I'm hard of hearing, so reading lips is very important and a useful tool for me, so I might pick up on that like slightly more than people, but like, that was a significant detail that stood out to me. So to know the process behind that is I don't know, that's really amazing, especially for folks like me.
No, that's rad.
That's really interesting from an accessibility perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I guess only if you know Japanese, though.
Well, yeah, that too. But like, such an incredible detail is not something that we want to like overlook. Like, I want to acknowledge that specifically, like highlight it. Like, it's amazing.
There is some, like, spectacularly visceral imagery throughout this movie. Like, the dream sequences, the body horror, just the setting in general. For some reason, I am particularly enamored by the scene transition they do at one point, where someone swings a metal pipe, and it actually smacks us into a new shot. It was just good shit.
Oh,
That was delicious.
On that one.
Speaking specifically on the dream sequences too, I feel like a lot of dream sequences in media try a bit too hard to feel all like psychedelic and weird, but this movie does a really good job of making things feel just surreal enough without coming off like they're trying too hard. I don't know if that's going to make sense to anyone else but me, but I appreciated that.
I think that makes sense.
It was understated while still being ethereal.
I do think it's a little bit difficult to tell what's dreams and what's hallucinations because we kind of see both, but I think that lends itself to that dreamlike quality.
Well, and it feels more like a dream because, when you're dreaming, you don't really know that you are. It's when you start to notice that you're dreaming that you wake up. And I think in most of these dream sequences, we're kind of hitting on that feeling of, wait, that's not quite right, but I'm going to go with it. But it just feels a little bit off. And I really liked that.
Yeah, that's a great point. It kind of feels like the dream dream blends into reality.
Yeah.
I think it helps that they never actually clearly define the limitations of the children's powers. So it's left up to interpretation, like what they are actually capable of and how much they are affecting reality.
Right.
Versus just like, I'm making you see things. Woo.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of the dream stuff happens before you really understand a little bit of the scope of their power.
I think, too, it strengthens the theming with the fact that we don't know as an audience what's real and what's not when it's something that's so focused on the brain and the psyche and how our thoughts shape us in the world, especially when you start to introduce a power.
Fun trivia, the film was animated using a record-breaking 327 colors of paint, 50 of which were invented specifically for the production of this film.
That's crazy.
That's wild. I love that.
It's so cool. It's I cannot understate just how technically, as an art form, impressive this movie is. Mm-hmm. The sound design, too, is absolutely phenomenal. Though, I will say that while most of the soundtrack is great, there's a few instances in the second half of the movie where they try and do like a dun-dun type dramatic score, but it's flat out just some dude going, done, done, and it was really hard for me to take seriously.
I read, people trying to piece apart what the soundtrack is inspired by, which I thought was interesting and put in my notes. And people say that it's combining Buddhist chants, instrumentals, Indonesian gamelan, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, percussion, futuristic techno, ominous pipe organ, and ominous Latin chanting.
Ominous pipe organ.
Ominous pipe organ. But it's really cool, and you can see how it inspired the landscape afterward. When you said that Satoshi Kon was working on the manga, it made complete sense because of the Paranoia Agent soundtrack and the amount of chanting that happens in that one. My brain just clicked immediately.
Yeah, it's hard to, going back to the, how many references can I spot that I've seen in other things? They're immeasurable because they're across every genre.
So there was this thought that I had while watching riot police shoot at protesters surrounded by imagery of capitalist excess. Welcome to the Weeb years, everyone. Where I started thinking about how it's funny in a sad way how we in the West have swallowed the lies of capitalism for so long that we are only just now, as things reach their boiling point, realizing just how fucked our whole system is. Meanwhile, basically everywhere else was predicting this shit 40 years ago. Very similar to my thoughts during season 1 of Code Geass when it came to how they tackled stuff like genocide and how shockingly and upsettingly accurate they managed to be. There were a lot of shots in the first half of this film that hit way harder than I really wanted them to.
Akira just straight up, watching it now after 2019 has passed, I cannot shake the heebie-jeebies this has given me because of how on the nose it is in so many ways.
No, I totally agree. It's unsettling because, as our 2019 was unfolding, I was seeing a whole lot of references to Akira, and now that I've seen the movie, I get it, and it is not a good feeling. I think I pointed out several times in my notes that, yes, this riot scene, that feels pretty 2019. This incredible violence feels pretty 2019, and, it's 2026, but, those things have not disappeared. Yeah.
And then there's also the shit with, the Olympics, which is also insane.
It made it so real when they brought in the Olympics bit, and it's uncomfortable because, and this movie is intentionally made to make you feel uncomfortable because of a lot of the themes that are going on, but they just smack you right upside the face with current events without even knowing that they would be current events.
This is that Idiocracy was a documentary thing,
No.
but not bullshit.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I also want to shout out Johnny Young Bosch as Kaneda and Joshua Seth as Tetsuo, at least in the dubs that Laurel and I watched. The whole cast in the anime's dub does a great job, but the two leads specifically are a treat. I remember doing the fucking Leonardo DiCaprio finger snap meme at my screen when I realized that Tetsuo was fucking Tai from Digimon.
Oh.
Now I hate that I've missed this. I'm gonna go watch that version. I'm excited. Because on that note, it is a very rewatchable movie.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, I have one little thing I want to talk about because it didn't come up in my dub at all. Can you explain an esper? They don't use that word at all in that dub.
Esper is a I want to say it originates in Japan. I'm not sure, but it stands for like ESP, like psychic powers. So it's just an ESP-er, like someone who has psychic powers. I'm pretty sure it originated in Japan. Like they really like the term ESP and Esper, but it just means someone with psychic powers.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a Yu-Gi-Oh character called Esperoba.
Oh yeah, and the Pokemon Esper, who's a psychic cat.
I was thinking about the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to start this by saying watching teenagers feel things so passionately makes me feel ancient. Old as dirt.
We're all dead inside.
Oh my god.
If I first watched this 12 years ago, I would have been 17, which is about, I think, the age the characters are.
Yeah, I think that definitely influences how you feel about it, which makes my next point more interesting, I guess. I think, one of the themes that we're really looking at in this movie is teenage passion, but we're also getting 3 age groups to look at. We've got I'm going to treat them as kids because they're physically more like kids, the Espers, and then we've got our teenage Mad Max style crazy road rage, mad at the establishment teenagers. And then we've got a little subsection of adults that are, scientists and soldiers and people in charge. And I think looking at this movie and how we're talking about age is really interesting. It's really compelling, but it made me kind of think a little bit deeper on what we're expected to feel about these different differentiations of age. You can put MaeMae up on that Charlie meme where he's like got all the pictures strung together with the red string. but it got me. I have a little chart in my notes. I'm thinking about actually making it something prettier. But the teenagers. This is our Tetsuo. This is our Kaneda, because it's pronounced silly in the one I watched. Kaneda. Basically, my little chart kind of boils down into these 3 categories: kids, teens, and adults. But as the movie progresses, you really get you get your fingers into it. And it's it's definitely focused on the teenager side of things. Like, they're the main characters, they're explosive, they're beholden to what their peers expect and think about them, which makes them act differently. If I just say, teenagers, you get it. But in comparison to these two, the teenagers are really only concerned with themselves and their little insular group. So, they're thinking very interior versus the Espers, the kids. They're more so showing us empathy. They're showing a lot of fear, and they're kind of governed by not knowing enough about a situation to make the right call. At the same time, they have so much empathy that they do, which is really interesting. But that contrasts really harsh with the adults, because the adults, they're more sure of themselves. They have this defined career path and job that they're doing, and so they're sort of burdened with knowledge. They're burdened by the processes and the laws. We see really cool shootout moment because of the laws kind of coming to a head about things with the coup, but they're really acting with expectations in mind. And I think as we're looking at this, sweeping sci-fi background, we're forced to look inward. That's what sci-fi does, really. And so picking out what everybody's motivation was really interesting, because then you can start to look at the actions that they actually end up doing.
So your take is really interesting because the blue children, they're closer in age to the adult demographic from what I understand, because they are chronologically about 40, but they still retain their childlike brain, almost like they remained in a stasis of being a child but continued to age and gain information. And I do think that both the way that they discuss and deal with empathy is very collectivist driven, in the same way that the other adult characters are trying to work within laws and structures in a more collectivist perspective. And that really highlights the generational gap between them and the teenagers, where the teenagers are a lot more individualist. I think you're 100% right though.
Yeah, no, and putting teenagers under the microscope is such an interesting thing to do because, a myriad of reasons, but the way they act in groups is fascinating, and how they act differently compared to, kids that act like adults and adults that act like children, if we want to compare that.
Yeah, and there's such an emphasis on that political council not being able to come to any conclusion or even being willing to cooperate.
Oh, I love that. That's why I love Shin Godzilla so much.
So I guess that's a little less collectivist in that regard.
Yeah. Well, they're like bound by those things. Like they can't get past those laws and processes that they have to do to make the laws work.
I think that also speaks to the idea that when you get to be older, your beliefs and perspective on the world often become more rigid unless you're making an effort to still be taking in information and challenge your beliefs and whatnot.
Definitely. It's just so I love this movie and the way it makes you think about people, whether it's about their age or another topic we can kind of get into is in a lot of media you've got a defined good guy and a defined bad guy, and they duke it out all the time. These characters shift depending on where you are in the movie and your perspective on what's happening. And that was a deeply humbling and humanizing thing to do to them. And I really appreciated that. But like you start out, with this adult and child at the very beginning, and you're like, oh no, they've got to get away from the big bad government. And then, oops, the little kid can blow up everything in a mile radius. Maybe they're not the good guys. And, it just keeps going back and forth. Like, well, then the government folks steal a teenager. And you're like, well, I don't know if they're good or bad at this point. And, it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about the big gross baby, because wow, big gross baby. I've struggled to think of words other than wow, that made me physically ill to watch.
I have a note from when I was watching where I was like, suddenly I wish the animation wasn't so impressive.
Same. I think I just wrote, oh, I hate this. What the fuck? Because I couldn't come up with good words. But wow, that was a lot. But
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, different strokes, but once I realized what was appearing, what was happening in this scene, it really made me appreciate it a lot more. Because, we see Tetsuo and all of his flaws and all of the things that have been done to him, the way he responds to things. But it tickled me a little bit because he's turning into this disgusting big gross baby, and he's just throwing a fit over this boy that he pretty much wants to be, Kaneda. But he's consuming this boy he wants to be, this boy that's gone out of his way to protect him and make him part of their group, and still Tetsuo treats him like crap once he gets unimaginable power. And this girl that he likes, while throwing a big baby fit and turning into a big baby, it just made me laugh because you're just throwing a fit, a immeasurable power fit, but you're just gonna consume everybody because they made you mad. Or you're such a teenage boy. But looking at Tetsuo's character is so interesting because he makes teenage decisions and is selfish and is, confused on how people talk to him and treat him, and he's confused with the society that's kicked him out and not given him any support. And it's all understandable. I get it. I get the teenage rage, but just interesting to see that portrayed in a literal sense and with godlike powers.
I think the baby theming is actually very humanizing. It's evocative, and it's obviously meant to be disgusting and horrific, but it makes a lot of sense considering that when we see what's going on the inside for Tetsuo, there's a lot of regression happening. There's a lot of reflecting on formative events. There's a lot of reflection on his life, and there's also aspects of creating new life that are also happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big baby can be both things. It can be immaturity manifesting, and it can also be rebirth.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think they have to be divorced at all. In fact, joining them together makes it that much more humanizing and compelling.
Yeah, my takeaway was more so that the theming is really strong and everything ties together really well.
So I have this weird sort of half hot take, half conspiracy theory I want to throw at you guys.
Oh, I'm worried.
As said before, this is one of the most well-regarded and influential anime of all time. I don't think everyone who says they've seen Akira has actually seen Akira. I think that even today, Akira is one of those things that a lot of people will claim they've seen just because they think they're supposed to have seen it.
Not performative weebs.
And it's so easy to pretend you have because it's such a cultural touchstone that even if you haven't seen the movie, you know most of the main plot points just through osmosis. You know about the bike slide, you know about Tetsuo turning into a big blob baby, you know that it's this cyberpunk hallmark. All the main talking points are so well known that it's very easy to pretend you've seen it. And here's the thing. I've also osmosised plenty about this movie. I knew a lot of what was going to happen going in, but also I've heard a lot about this movie that I just don't think I actually saw while watching it. I'm really questioning how many people have actually seen Akira and how many have just been parroting the same talking points over the decades in this like weird game of film studies telephone where everyone can just coast by on its cultural impact without ever having to actually sit down and watch it. Because the dirty little secret that I am unfortunately realizing the rest of you don't agree with me, Akira's kinda mid.
Oh my god. Okay, no.
I don't think I agree.
I will disagree that it's mid, but the thing that I've been saying when people are like, oh, you just watched Akira, what did you think? And I've been telling them, I think I'm going to enjoy talking about it more than I did watching it.
Yeah.
I've spent years hearing about how Akira is this, like, anti-capitalist philosophical masterpiece about the disenfranchisement of Japan's youth during the post-war economic boom. And I can totally see the essence of that sort of story that I'm sure exists in the manga, but the movie itself is sort of rushed and weirdly paced and doesn't really feel like it says anything outside of the government sure is corrupt, huh?
I'm inclined to agree with you on some points, but what this movie really does, like, better than most movies I've ever seen, is it does make you think about those things. And I think a lot of folks will take what they're thinking about and talk about that instead of, speaking just on what they've watched.
Yeah.
Like, I just extrapolated a ton of information from this because it's interesting and, I like these themes and, whatever. But, like, I think that's more along the lines of what people are doing. Instead of just talking about what they have actually seen, they're telling you about how they feel about what they've seen.
My argument is that, like, yeah, it makes us think about all of these things, but I feel like maybe the movie itself should have said some of those things too, if it was a little more interesting. Don't get me wrong.
And then 4 hours?
We already covered how even the director of the movie admitted that trying to make this movie out of like swishing so much story into 2-hour movie was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Technically, this movie is insanely impressive. It is a fucking gorgeous movie. But none of the emotional moments had any weight to them for me, because none of the characters are likable. And we don't learn anything about them that would endear them to us until after the emotional moment happens. We learn all about, like, Tetsuo and Kaneda's, like, backstory and friendship and dramatic past and everything after the emotional climax of the film, which is a baffling choice.
Yeah. I mean, I think I got more out of it because I was rewatching it for sure.
We're supposed to see Tetsuo as this, like, meek boy with a repressed inferiority complex who snaps after gaining powers, and you can tell that they want it to feel impactful when he lashes out at Kaneda and his other friends. But even before he gets powers, Tetsuo just kinda sucks. There's not really a difference in his character. He's just kind of an incel, and then he's an incel who gets superpowers. There's this shot near the end of the film that I think, like, perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about, where Kaneda is grasping for the last, like, flicker of Tetsuo's essence as it floats down from the sky. Visually, fantastic fucking shot. Great imagery, very well animated, wonderful shot. But there's basically no emotional weight behind it, because I don't really give a shit about either of these characters or their friendship, air quotes.
Yeah, that scene mostly left me with a feeling of relief, like, oh, thank God it's over. So I see where you're coming from.
I do too. I think, Beanie and I, this was our first watch through, and so we don't have the context that the end of the film gives you, with their sweet little flashbacks to show their previous relationship before all of these events happen.
Why were those at the end? That's such a weird choice. I'm not going to get over that.
I don't appreciate that they were at the end, and I think going in for a second or 20-second watch, that's gonna endear you to these characters. But the first time it didn't. I don't okay, I have this metric by which I enjoy things, and it's, have I enjoyed these characters enough that I would purchase merch of a single character?
Okay.
I would never. I don't like a single one of these fuckers enough to buy something. Like, I enjoy watching them, but they all suck.
They all suck.
And there's never a time that you're given that shows you, like, their deep emotional connection until after. Like what Beanie's saying. With Kaneda and, is her name Kay?
Yes, Revolutionary Girl.
Yeah, the Revolutionary Girl.
Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Oh my god. Yeah, but you can see that, Kaneda's interested in her, and there's nothing. Like, she doesn't even shut him down. There's just no chemistry, no nothing. They just are two characters talking to each other, and it's so boring. Like, I at least want a little bit of catty or a little bit of flirty or something. There's nothing.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. You're right, though.
I always just took that as a reflection of her character and the fact that she's very pragmatic and focused, but I could see what you mean by her not shutting it down.
I think both are true. Like, I think that is a reflection of her character, but I think that it has caused the rest of the movie to be less interesting.
Yeah.
It's like playing a D&D campaign where one of the party members is like, I'm a lone wolf who doesn't play well with others. Like, sure, that's an interesting character. Bad character for D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Have a different character.
And I'm almost confident they're gonna reach that in the manga because, you're supposed to view these teens as like a big family group that cares about each other in some, in the teenager kind of way.
Yeah.
I feel like we could get a whole lot of leverage out of like one or two little lines of dialogue throughout. Like you don't get as much personalization. And I do think it has to do with, crunching this down into a tiny little 2-hour movie versus the source material. But like, let me see them interact. Let me care about them more.
It's a really interesting dissonance, too, with the focus that the film has thematically on being human and emotion.
No, I totally agree.
It goes against its own core thesis. I'm actually getting madder at the movie now that we're talking. Oh, no.
No, I really, just in our laundry list of things that are kind of pissing us off about the movie, Kaneda and Kei are having, like, they're having a deep conversation. They're talking about a really deep concept about, Akira. And his first thought is, what is this girl's relationship status to the dude I just met?
Okay.
Like, really?
I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about Kaneda and the fact that Kaneda sucks. And I just thought about the fact that I'm gonna have to clarify this just now. When I say that Kaneda sucks, I am not trying to say that, like, oh, you can't have good characters who are bad people.
No.
You absolutely can. Light Yagami, objectively, bad person, super fun character. Everyone fucking loves Light Yagami. He's a great protagonist. Kaneda sucks, but not in a fun way.
Yeah, he's not got the bad boy, like, you have characters that you love to hate. He's not that. You just kind of don't like him.
I kept waiting for a moment where they would somehow find a way to make him a little bit more endearing, but even till the very end and the final confrontation with the Tetsuo? Whatever. He's just kind of a dick.
At least he stays true to himself, I guess.
To continue talking about the ending of the movie, but from a different framework, this is obtuse, but ever since starting the Weeb years, I have suddenly, and in very quick succession, been introduced to a surprising number of anime that are interested in the concept of a collective consciousness. Evangelion, Kaiba, Kogias, and I think Darker Than Black also did something with it near the end of season 1, but for some reason I've been operating under the notion that that was a Buddhist thing, but upon researching, I've learned that is incredibly false, so I don't know what that's about, but man, there's a lot of anime that really like the idea of a collective ethereal consciousness.
I think it's both a matter of influence from earlier works and also just how collectivist as a society Japan is, especially when juxtaposed with Western cultures.
See, I was thinking about that, but I wasn't sure enough to want to mention it, so I'm glad you said it and not me.
I had a lot of...
Now if it's wrong, it's your fault.
I had a lot of college classes about individualism and collectivism, and I had a professor who had lived in both Canada and Japan, and she kind of talked about it. So, like, it's something I'm thinking of with reference to Japan a lot, because I've heard that from people who've lived there versus Western society, who are pretty educated.
I'm glad at least one of us went to college.
Beanie. Art college doesn't count.
Oh, I just didn't know you went at all. Oops.
No, I did.
Gosh, I sure am bored. My favorite podcast only uploads every other week, so all I can do until the next episode comes out is cry into my Haruko Haruhara body pillow.
Reverse those tears back into your eye holes, sad listener person.
We're here to solve all your sadness problems.
And also promote ourselves financially.
Oh my gravy! It's Beanie, Laurel, and MaeMae from the Weeb Years, my favorite anime podcast I was just crying about.
Silly listener person, didn't you know that the Weeb Years has a Patreon with tons of exclusive bonus content?
You get access to exclusive recordings and videos, read the notes we take while doing research,
Plus, you can get new episodes 3 days early. That makes you better than everyone else for 3 whole days.
Wow, that all sounds so cool. I wish I had the $100 a month it costs to access all those amazing extra goodies.
Silly listener person, you can access all that fantabulous bonus material for only $5 a month.
Sugoi!
Haha, never say that again.
Just go to patreon.com/theweebyears to cure all your boredom and sadness forever.
Sorry about your wall, by the way.
So normally this is where we would do our retroviews segment, but we're going to move some stuff around this time, and I'll explain why later. Laurel, MaeMae, let's start with you actually. Would you recommend this today?
Without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. It's so culturally important, and you should not be one of those people that when asked, have you seen Akira? You say yes, even though you haven't. I don't think you should be one of those people.
MaeMae says, don't lie, kids. How about you, Laurel?
Absolutely. I think this is a must-watch. I do think there is the caveat of it has some pretty severe body horror, so if that's something you really struggle with, you maybe sit this one out.
Oh, trigger warning for sexual assault, too. There is it's very minor, but there is a scene near the middle point where someone almost gets assaulted.
It's treated as horrifying and disgusting in the subject matter, but it is still there.
Yeah.
What about you, Beanie?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I had a lot of complaints about the story, and I think it is a textbook case of style over substance, but as long as you're willing to accept that and not try to fool yourself into thinking it's better than it actually is, Jesus fuck, this movie is a visual masterpiece.
I don't think I've ever said anything remotely similar to the sentence that's going to come out of my mouth here, but like, you know those fan cuts that people make on Reels and TikTok where it's just, I guess it's called a supercut. I would love to see one of those of this movie.
Interesting.
Oh, that was one of the most 30-year-old things you've ever said.
I can't help it. I am what I am.
Now, normally, as I said before, we would do a segment called Retroviews, where we take a look at some reviews of what we watched from back when it first came out, and compare the feedback it received at the time to what we thought of it now. Today, however, the Retroviews are taking a little vacation, because I wanted to do something different as part of our 1-year celebration.
Vacation's where I wanna be.
I feel like the three of us have done a pretty good fucking job this last year, and we deserve to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. So, I just want to ask you guys a few questions to talk about what we've accomplished so far.
Yippee!
First off, what was your favorite thing that you got to watch for the first time thanks to the Weeb Years?
It's a toss-up between Castle of Cagliostro and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, because I've never seen either of them, and they both are just such aesthetic masterpieces. I'm leaning Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, but that's just because I love vampires, and I love gothic horror. I'm shocked I never had seen that before.
What about you, MaeMae?
I pretty well have a 3-way tie, but I think I have my top answer, but I'm going to give you the 3 first. Unsurprisingly, one of my 3 is Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Oh my god, I want to watch it again and record another podcast about it.
I know.
It was such a ride. I loved that one. Second one is The Vision of Escaflowne, because I really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic ride to go on, and I got to connect with one of my partners a little bit more. It was one of his favorites.
Aww.
He'd been dying for me to watch it for since he heard about the podcast, actually. So
that's so sweet.
Yeah. And then my third pick is Tokyo Godfathers. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it before, but I am a better human because I did watch it. So
I watch that every Christmas, every year.
I'm going to now.
I do a double feature of that and Saint Young Men.
I love that. Oh, my answer was hard to pick because this is going to sound like an unintentional brag, but most of the good things that we had watched for the show, I had already seen before. So picking one that I hadn't seen yet that wasn't kind of iffy was a little difficult. but I think mine is going to be The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. That was a fantastic movie.
Interesting.
I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Second question, what do you think was our best episode?
Ooh, that's so hard. My knee-jerk reaction is the Tokyo Godfathers episode, because I feel like we did a good job. I've not heard the final cut. I just know we had a really good time recording, but I suppose my actual answer is our Angelic Layer episode.
That was a good one.
Aw.
I was really impressed with how we did that.
Aw.
I think you tackled some really difficult discussions really well in that episode as well.
Thank you.
I think our strongest episode has got to be the Sweet Blue Flowers episode, just because I felt like it was a very personal topic and we both brought a lot to the plate as pretty much an entirely queer group.
Mhm.
And I think that we really have a lot to offer in that regard. And I think we did a good job. I think we did a good job on a lot of them, but I think that that's something where we can really add personal perspective to things.
Sweet Blue Flowers was actually going to be one of my answers also. Like you said, I think we just did a really good job talking about the subject matter, and there was a lot of parts of that episode where I just kind of point to, like, hey, check out our podcast. We talk good shit. It feels weird to brag about myself in that way, but like I think we did a really good job on that one. The other one I would say, if not Sweet Blue Flowers, would be Lucky Star. That one was just really fun.
Yeah.
We didn't really do anything groundbreaking in it. It was just a really fun episode.
Oh, can I say my favorite of your two episodes?
Sure.
I ate up the Kaiba episode.
Really?
Ooh.
That's probably my favorite that you two have done.
Really? I felt like that was a mess when we were recording it, but the final cut actually came out a bit coherent.
Oh no, I really liked it.
Beanie does magic.
Oh. All right, final question, and I'm not making any promises, but what is something you really hope we cover in the next year of the show?
I would love to revisit this one shoujo manga I loved in middle school and have no idea how it holds up, called Aishiteruze Baby.
Oh.
I never saw the anime, I only read the manga, and I was like obsessed with it. It's like a shoujo story about like, I can't remember, I think it's his niece. It's like a high school student who's taking care of like a little kid who's like his niece, and through her he begins to build relationships with people around him.
Aw, that sounds cute.
That does
Yeah,
sound
it's really
cute.
cute.
That one wasn't even on our to-do list yet. I have to put that on there now.
Please don't laugh too hard, but I'm really excited because this was mentioned in two of the chats that I'm in. I really want to watch Wolf's Rain again.
I have never seen it. My friends were all obsessed with it, and like I think some of them had like role plays they did.
Oh.
But I never saw it.
I just really want to go back and watch that one. It's been brought up so many times lately, and I just want to see the cute little wolf boys.
I'm kind of tied between I'm so fucking excited to show anybody Gundam. I don't care which
Me.
one of you.
Me.
I just
Me.
want to
me
show people Gundam.
Show us both Gundam.
Sit us down, make us watch Gundam.
I've been wanting to get into Gundam forever.
If not Gundam, though, my other pick was going to be, there's this series that a friend of mine told me about recently from the mid-2000s called Gadguard, which is this, like, jazzy giant robots with, like, a Mega Man Battle Network art style.
Whoa.
This is so Beanie Core. Oh my god.
It looks so frustratingly up my alley. Yeah, no, I'm very excited to get to Gadguard.
I'm excited to do more mecha because I feel like we've only done a couple more contemporary ones, and I think if we go back into older stuff, it's going to be a very different vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm looking forward to not just the next year, but the next 5, 10, however long we keep doing this. Like I said at the start of the episode, this is going to sound gay as hell, but this has been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done, and I love you guys. Thank you so
You're
much.
so sappy.
I completely agree. This has been so fulfilling.
It is. No, I love being here. I love y'all. This has been so much fun, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Thank you guys so much for doing this with me, and thank you, dear listener, for listening. That was a weird one. If you want to hear more of us, you can find us at Weebeers on Blue Sky. If you'd like to send in a listener question or, suggestions, feedback, any of that stuff, we have a mailbox, theweebeers@gmail.com. We recently dropped our Patreon. I'm sure you heard the wonderful commercial earlier in the episode, but you can check us out there as well. Normally, this is the part where I ask you very nicely, dear audience, to help us grow by sharing things around and all of that stuff, but it's our 1-year anniversary anniversary. It's our birthday. I'm gonna allow us to be a little selfish. Person listening to this right now, click that like button, click subscribe, send this episode to as many of your friends as you can. I am not asking anymore.
And because it's the podcast's first birthday, you have an excuse to eat cake.
Cake.
Alright, Marie Antoinette.
Why?
Why did I pull out a fucking Marie
Why would you do
Antoinette
this?
joke at the end of the Akira episode?
Save it for the Rose of Versailles episode.
Oh, goodbye, everyone.
Well, bye.
Bye!